WGSN-DB Going Solo Network welcomes you to You Can Find Love After 50 with your host, dating coach Lisa Copeland. Lisa's best-selling book on Amazon, The Winning Dating Formula for Women Over 50, has helped women all over the globe find love. Her weekly column in the Huffington Post, which is viewed by millions of readers, along with her unique insight into how to find a quality man, makes her the #1 dating coach for women over 50. And now, your host, Lisa Copeland.
You're listening to Lisa Copeland of the You Can Find Love After 50 show on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And today we're going to do an amazing show. We're going to be talking about your intuition and how that relates to dating, because a lot of times we just bypass our gut feeling. And it's really important that you listen to yourself. I have a very special guest with me today who is an intuit herself and who's going to talk today to you about how this is so important in your dating life. I have with me Sarah Weiss. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for having me on the show. Great.
I've known Sarah a very long time. She's a friend and a colleague of mine, and she has so much to share with you today. But I thought first, Sarah, it would be really good for you to tell a little bit about your story and how intuition has played an important role in your life and in your love life, too.
Okay. Well, first of all, intuition is intertwined in everything we do. So you can't even separate it out from your business, your career, your love life, your family life, your hobbies, whatever you do, there's always a hint of intuition in there. And in my life, I have always been in touch with my intuition. In fact, to the point where it made me wonder, what's wrong with me? Because I see things a little differently than everyone else. And so when I was a child, I would have feelings about some of the adults around me. I might feel like, oh, that person's not well, but they're not talking about it, or they don't know yet, or I see kind of a dark cloud around someone, and I'm wondering what's going to happen with them, or I get a very good feeling about something. So everything in my life was centered around feeling and sensing. And while I did develop my, let's say, academic logical mind, I do have a master's degree, I got that far, I found that my intuition was my trusty partner in life.
Yeah, I hear you. One of the things that you do with intuition is you're very much a medical intuitive. Mm-hmm. You're a spiritual guide, and you've used your intuition to lead women and men on amazing retreats. In fact, we're going to be giving Sarah's website in a little bit. And do you want to talk a little bit about exactly what you do?
Sure. I found that my intuition worked the best in medical situations. So in other words, people have intuition, and some people's intuition works better in one area than another. So, for instance, I'm not psychic, and someone said to me, I lost my ring, or can you tell me what's going to happen to me next week? I don't have that kind of intuition. But if someone's in session with me, and we need to find out, we need to get to the bottom of why they're not feeling well, what's involved in their mind, body, spirit, in terms of their medical situation, then my intuition zeroes in. And I've been doing this for 30 years professionally, and I have many physicians and therapists that refer their clients to me when they can't figure out what's going on with them. So many times you'll take a bunch of tests, you're not feeling well, but every test says that you're fine. Or you'll go through 5 different specialists and no one has been able to solve the issue that you're presenting. And so when I work with them, I can get to the bottom at least the first step, the first inkling, clue, direction to help that person find the resolution to what is ailing them. And many of the doctors and therapists are very happy to receive that information. I find that most medical professionals are so genuinely invested in having their patients get well that at a certain point when nothing's working, they're very open to this type of information. And then the other thing I do is teach people how to develop their intuition. They don't need to become a medical intuitive, but they can learn how to bring out the intuition in whatever career, profession, or hobby that they're involved in.
Or their love life.
Or their love life. Whatever your main interest is, like if your love life is your passion right now, that's where your intuition is going to be really active. It goes along with passion and creativity. So if that's what you're aiming for, that's where it's going to come out.
So we're going to talk today a little bit about how to get in touch with that intuition, but can you just share why intuition is so important in the dating world?
Yes, I can. As I was thinking about this show and trying to figure out what would be the best information to share with your listeners, one of the most important things about intuition is it will always support you. It will always try to bring out the best in you, and it will never be a voice that humiliates you or tells you that there's something wrong with you. Your intuition will help build your confidence. When you're confident about your intuition, your confidence as a person increases so much. And you get to the point where you trust your intuition 100%, and you won't let anyone else knock you down, criticize you, tell you you're not good enough. And when that translates into the dating world as a very positive energy, people are attracted to that.
That's the confidence. Yes, everybody wants to be with someone who has confidence, not arrogant confidence, but a knowing of oneself and what one wants. Confidence, which sounds like what intuition is. You truly know who you are to your core?
Yes, you do. And you know that you have like your best friend inside helping you and supporting you. And, you know, your intuition is not going to tell you everything's perfect and rosy. It's going to guide you to bring out the best in you. And if you have to learn something or if you have to understand something about yourself, there's going to be these little inklings that will draw you to situations, books, seminars, workshops that will help you grow. But the most important part is it's not going to do it in a critical, humiliating, deprecating way. It's always going to feel like, oh, good, I can learn this now. You know, you can get excited about what your intuition is guiding you towards.
When I work with a lot of my clients, I help them develop what I call their inner dating guide, and that is their intuition, because we as women are so hard on ourselves, and that's really our ego. It's not even this pure part of ourselves, and we block this intuition. Have you found that a lot with people, that they block intuition?
Absolutely, and that's what's so good about your programs, Lisa, because you work with the deeper aspect of a person and help to build their confidence and their understanding of themselves from inside out. But we've not been, you're very welcome. I really respect the work that you do.
As I do you.
Thank you. One of the problems is we were not trained to use our intuition since we were children. And so when you grow up without anyone talking about it, without anyone helping you develop it, you become an adult, and then you kind of feel like you're handicapped, like you only have one leg to stand on, which is the rational mind. And then you kind of have to backtrack to figure out what intuition is. And then on top of that, we have all these expectations that are placed upon us and all the shoulds of society.
Yeah.
And when we get programmed like that, it's very hard to break those programs up enough that you can actually hear something of the truth that's trying to come through. So if you were raised and your parents wanted you to be a doctor or they wanted you to be a teacher, that message was pounded into you day after day after day, whether it was verbally or silently. Their expectation was radiated to you every day until it became what you thought you wanted for yourself. That applies to who you think you want to date, too. I'm sure most parents have an ideal of who they want their son or daughter to end up with. And there comes, you know?
Yeah.
And then you think that's who you're supposed to end up with, and then your view narrows, the field narrows, and you don't even expand out to try or to learn about different kinds of people. They're not on your radar. You don't let your heart lead you or your intuition. You're letting all these expectations and programmed ideas lead you. And
sometimes
that gets
fear,
in the
too.
way. Fear.
Sometimes fear.
Right.
Yeah, because so many people think, especially now, like back in the day, you know, a lot of mothers would say, oh, you should marry a doctor or a lawyer, or instead of who will make you happy, because their mothers feared that they would not be financially okay. And today that's sort of translated in this over-50s dating world. So many people are afraid to try someone who could really make them happy, but who is not like super financially successful. So that's blocking their intuition, right?
It is. We don't value happiness. I hate to say that, but if you really listed your values and what you're programmed to believe by our culture, it's very materialistic most of the time. And we have put our own happiness, especially those of us over 50 who were raised during a certain era, we were taught to put ourselves aside and do for everyone else. And if we were doing for everyone else, then we would get the acceptance and praise and everything that we were craving. But we never learned how to be ourselves. And now that we're over 50, and we have a little more freedom to explore some of this because a few of those programs may be dropping off a little in their intensity. It's a little scary to find out that, you know, maybe you do want to pursue art. Maybe you do want to date a foreign gentleman. Maybe you do want to do something more exotic or interesting than you've allowed yourself to do. And that helps you develop and cultivate this sense of, what do I want? What do I really want? What will really make me happy? And your intuition will help you with that, but I can't even tell you how many times a day you ignore it. Just as a little example, how many times do you walk out the door where you're going to go somewhere and your eye falls on something, like whether it's a pamphlet or a bag or glass or something, you know, a gift or something, and you said to yourself, I don't really need to take that with me. I'm just going to keep going. Well, I found out that every time my eye falls on something before I'm walking out the door, I grab it. Because even though I don't know I need it then, I know I'm going to need it because my eye fell on it. It's little things like that where your intuition is working.
So what's the difference between, oh my God, did I leave the iron on, or I may have left the iron on, and seeing the bag? Because I know that one is fear-based and one is your intuition. So can you talk about that a second?
That's a good example, because I do believe that intuition should be balanced with practical grounded living.
Mhm.
Okay? So if you're the kind of person that doesn't pay attention to your surroundings, you're not very grounded.
Mhm.
And we need to be grounded in our practical earthly life in order to be able to move freely around. So you need to learn the discipline of beginning something, doing it, and completing it. So you're going to iron something, you get it ready, you do the ironing, and you turn it off. It's actually a spiritual practice that has been taught to me by 3 different spiritual teachers who say you always have 3 parts of everything you do. You have the beginning part, the middle part, and the end part. And learning that discipline of doing the beginning, middle, and end allows your mind to be free then to open up and enjoy the world. So I try to reduce the number of things that might rise as fear because I didn't pay attention to them, so that when I wonder about the iron, I can retrace my steps and actually know I turned it off. I don't like to be left with lingering anxieties, actually.
Yeah.
And it's actually a way of living that allows you to know the difference between your logical mind and your intuition. So they're intertwined.
And we're going to talk more about that and how it relates to men and when you go on a date in just a minute.
Hey everybody, this is your girl Dr. MV, host of Singles Get Real. Catch the show every Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you missed the show, simply check out my podcast. Thanks for listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network.
First of all, I want to remind you, you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I'm Lisa Copeland, the host of the You Can Find Love After 50 show. And today I have with me Sarah Weiss, who has been talking to us about our intuition, why it's so important. And Sarah teaches men and women around the world how to access this intuition, how to develop healing abilities, and how to fulfill your spiritual aspirations. So I want to come back, Sarah, to this fear. So a woman or a man goes on a date, and they have these expectations we talked about earlier. They sit down, and within 5 seconds, they go, not for me. Are they listening to their head or their intuition? And how do they access their intuition so that their head's not bossing them?
Great example. Most of the time, if you are not trained, if you have not cultivated your intuition, then I would say 90% of the time you're going off of expectations and programs. If you in fact, I, most of the time, will wait till I get 3 different hits about something before I confirm it as an intuitive hit. If I'm sitting with someone and I've just met them and just something triggers me and I don't like them, I say to myself, Sarah, sit back, relax, come back to yourself, feel your feet on the ground, breathe, and first let yourself be present here. Who knows what triggered me? Could have been the color of a tie or a shirt or something.
Someone's teeth or their hair.
Right. And I say to myself, back off. Back off and relax and open up the space. Become open enough to have an experience with the person. And let yourself breathe. If you're not breathing, then that's a clue that if your breathing is tense and shallow and you're not relaxed, that's a clue that you're not connected to your intuition. Intuition comes mostly out of a relaxed state. It comes when your mind is not going crazy judging someone, or when you're not anxious. And that's one of the problems with the dating scene, is that there's so much anxiety involved in it that it's hard to know. And so I would, and I know, Lisa, you work with people with this, you work on how judgmental am I?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a really judgmental people, and most of us are, if we're really honest with ourselves, we're really judgmental all the time.
Because we don't want others judging us first a lot of times. Mm-hmm.
It's a big defense. Mm-hmm. So then I need to learn, in order to discern my intuition from my judgments, I need to learn about how judgmental I am so that I can identify that and put that aside so that my intuition has some space to verbalize and come forward.
Yeah, that's really important. When I remember when I used to date, we see someone in the distance, we're walking up to them, our mind is going, do they have this on my checklist? Do they have that on my checklist? Do I like the way they look? Do they have the right shoes, the right hair, whatever? Instead of, like you said before, take a breath, ground yourself, and as I always tell women, find out something new and interesting about them, because that can totally shift how you feel. But I would love to have you ground us in a little bit or give us some ideas of what we can do with intuition. But before we do that, can you give everyone your website, Sarah, so that they can take a look at more of what you do, or if they want to get in touch with you with any ways to get in balance in their own lives, mind, body, soul?
Sure. It's www.SpiritHealOnline.com. And SpiritHeal is spelled all one word, SpiritHeal online.com. And I also have a newsletter that you can sign up for on that website, and I have probably about 40 or 50 free guided meditations on the website that you can listen to, download, and practice to help you relax and quiet your mind.
Yeah, because the mind, when it's constantly going, it's very hard for our intuition to come forward. It blocks it.
Right.
So what kind of things, in our last few minutes together, what kinds of things can we do to get in touch with our intuition?
Well, what's really interesting is the most acceptable intuitive modality that we have in this culture is our dreams. People don't think of dreams as intuition. They just think of them as their own category. But dreams are a big part of intuition. And if you can remember your dreams, it's a really good pathway into your intuition. So I always suggest that people learn how to incubate and remember dreams, because there's no criticism or judgment against dreams. You could tell someone, oh, I had this dream last night, blah, 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 and what do you think it means? And you can play with it and come up with some meaning, and you're actually playing with your intuition in an acceptable way. No, I mean, when you're sitting down and talking to someone about your dream, no one says, oh, well, that's not valid, like they would about intuition, or prove it to me, give me some scientific background on that dream. But what I'm saying is dreams are one of the great ways of accessing your intuition, and it's really easy to learn how to develop that. Then another way is learning how to relax. People think that they have to go into deep meditation to access their intuition, but that's not really true. But relaxing in our culture is one of the most difficult things anyone can do.
Oh, you're not kidding. We're on the go.
We're on the go, and our bodies are tense, our minds are wound up, and we think if we're not doing something that we're wasting time or useless, and we don't know how to relax the tension out of the body and allow the mind to rest and still be alert. So, for instance, we might learn, let's say we train ourselves to relax right before we go to sleep. Many people learn to do that if they have sleep problems.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is we learn to relax and then we go to sleep. But we don't learn how to relax and stay awake in a quiet state. And so that would be the very first step outside of dreams that I would recommend to people. And it's usually a big hump for people. They can't understand the value in that. Not only is there great medical value in it for your health, but that's when you want to be in a relaxed, awake state to access your intuition. So in American culture, that is the greatest obstacle to developing.
Taking the time to relax.
Something you have to learn. You have to train yourself to relax like you would train yourself to learn a sport or a musical instrument. It's something that you practice day after day after day for a long period of time until you develop some mastery with it. And people think, oh, well, if I can't sit down and relax one time, then I failed.
Yeah, that's what dating, too. If I don't find the guy or the girl on the first date, I failed.
Right.
I think it's a very failure-oriented culture that we are into.
Yeah, that's part of the pressure to perform all the time. So if you want your intuition to be helpful in your dating, then you have to backtrack a little and change your expectation and say, okay, I want to develop my intuition so that when I'm talking to someone on the phone, I can get a sense of whether I want to meet this person.
Mm-hmm.
That means you have to have practiced maybe for a month to learn how to relax in a stressful situation, because meeting someone on the phone for the first time or second time can be stressful.
Gets your body revved up. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you have to practice relaxing so that your intuition can then support you.
So can you just give us a little tip for relaxing, a quick tip we could do before we get on the phone with someone, before we go on a date, that will help everyone that's dating to get to that relaxed state so they can enjoy themselves on a date more and be more in touch with who someone is?
Sure. There's one thing that I always say. Remember your seat and feet. It sounds funny, but if you can lower your awareness into your seat, your rear end, I don't know a really good word for that, and if you can feel your feet, it's going to bring you into your body in a way that deepens your breathing, centers you very quickly, and allows you some space and quiet. It's a technique that they use in martial arts, and that's where I learned it, in Qigong and Tai Chi. Mm-hmm. That is the very first thing that they do, is they feel their feet rooted in the ground, and they lower their center of gravity into their body so that they feel themselves from head to toe. We live outside our body. We're spinning around the top of our head or off to the side somewhere, and we're not connected deeply in. That creates more tension. So I always say to people, remember your seat and feet.
Yeah, it's something you can just do. Nobody even has to know that you're doing this, to get calmed down when you go on a date, to get in touch with what's really important with this person you're facing.
Right. And it'll help you get over that anxiety. And when we're anxious, we tend to judge more. We'll project our own insecurities onto someone else. And then we're not even looking or seeing the person who's sitting in front of us. We're only seeing the veil through our own insecurities. And that's not fair.
Right, and that's not in touch with your intuition when you're doing that.
Right.
That's just judging yourself. Are some of the meditations on your site at SpiritHeal, is it SpiritHeal Institute online or SpiritHeal Online?
SpiritHeal Online. But if you Google SpiritHeal Institute, it'll get you there too.
because Sarah's created a wonderful institute. She takes people around the world. I happened to have gone on one of her trips to Sedona, and it was like so awesome. It really grounds. Sarah really helps you get into yourself, mind, body, soul, and really line up. And that is important in dating that we'll have to talk about another time. But do you have one last tip you want to share with us about intuition and dating before we go?
I would say don't be hasty. I'll tell you one quick story. A cousin of mine who just turned 60 lives in another part of the country and went out on a date. And she was not pleased with how it went. And I said to her, give him another chance. Just try. You haven't been on a date in a long time. Just try. So she went out a second time and still wasn't thrilled. Then she was going to tell him she didn't want to see him again. I said, you know what? Go one more time. And the third time was a charm. He opened up. He was a very shy person. And it took at least 3 times before there was even an inkling. So give people a chance. You know, you don't have to jump to a conclusion so quickly. Let yourself grow beyond your own programming and expectations and open up.
Right. Sarah's told me this story before. And this is like a couple now that is like happily ever after kind of story. They're really happy. And she would have missed it had she not slowed down and really listened to what was important to her.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And they're really happy.
I know. And happiness is what's important. Happiness is, like you said earlier. All right, well, we will have to come back and do more about this, but for now, Sarah, I want to thank you. Again, if you want to get in touch with Sarah Weiss, you can do it at SpiritHealOnline.com. And I want to thank you for being here today. Go out and use that intuition. Slow down. Go listen to some of Sarah's meditations. They're awesome and amazing. And until next week, I'm Lisa Copeland of the You Can Find Love After 50 show, and you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. Go out there and have fun dating.